Arpit Bharat is an author with his debut of historical fiction called Jambud Viva. I'm sorry, am I
Uh,
pronouncing it correctly?
it's
Uh,
Jambudvip, as the spelling says, Jambudvip, Jambudvip.
the drift of Bodhidharma. In his own words, he is a spiritual seeker who strives for constant evolution of the human vision and takes huge contentment in it. He is an avid nature hugger and has very deep roots tapping into the very primordial currents of our planet. He's an engineer by education, and being a creative person, he has seen that education can only be effective and benevolent if it becomes a powerful medium of creativity. I heartily welcome Arpit Bharat to our today's panel discussion. Thank you, Arpit.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to be with you. Thank you.
Now we'll proceed to Vishakha Verma. She is an author of Vanilla Drops, a digital creator, business blogger, and an event curator. Her debut book is a compilation of 150 plus poems on self love, healing, and life. The book is a beautiful depiction of the many occurrences in life with the simplest language, yet a powerful impact. On the first day of pre-order, the book topped the charts for the hottest new release on Amazon and ranked in the top 100 in various other categories. Thank you, Vishaka, for being here. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
Now, Dipavali Sen. She's a retired associate professor of Sri Guru Gobind Singh College of Commerce, Delhi University, and is currently living in Gurgaon, my city. But her favorite occupation, but her favorite occupation is writing. She writes for
Yes.
adults as well as for children on mythological as well as contemporary themes. Her work ranges from short stories in popular magazines to research based articles in reputed national and international journals. She has presented papers in international conferences held in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. She has published two books with the Invincible publishers: The Last Message, The Lost Message, The Waiting. A third one is forthcoming, Unheard Voices from Ancient Times. Thank you for being
Okay.
here, Ms. Pavli Sen. It is a pleasure having you here.
Thank, thank you.
Now let's start with today's questions. What do books represent for you? Do books help and escape from the daily struggle and negativity around? Do you think that books is like an escape mechanism, a medium for escapism, or it enhances the behavior of escapism in people? More, the avid readers are usually looking for books or read books as a way of escapism. We'll start with Arpit.
Yeah. So actually, I would like to answer this question in. I mean, I have just 2 minutes, right? So I would quickly answer it. So
Mhm.
I would like to divide this question into two parts: whether the books should be a medium of escape, and the second thing is, are they really a medium of escape as I have seen it?
Mhm.
So as I see it, first I will address the second question. As I see it, many people have, in my view, have treated books as a medium of escape. Yes, that is true, especially today. I have seen in Instagram and in many other social media, people posting about the books, and the way they approach the books is mostly in terms of the entertainment value. When I say entertainment value, I mean the thought based stimulus which people derive from those kinds of books, and therefore I would say that the fantasy books are more popular in comparison to the books which are more realistic. So the more dragons you have, the more fairy tales you have, the better the positive endings you have in those books,
Mhm.
the more relatable those books are, especially with respect to the stressful lifestyles which we have today. So
Mhm.
most people have been treating the books as a entertainment value, which somehow in a curious way they perceive as uh, as a medium through which they can reduce their stresses and go to their happy place.
Mhm.
So yes, it's a trend. In my view, the books should not be an entertainment tool merely. That's why I have written this my own book, Jambudvip. I have written it in the terms of entertainment plus transcendence. I give you the reason also for that because when the books become a medium of plain entertainment or perceived, they may not be so actually, but perceived as a medium of reducing the stress. In that case, in my view, the books, rather than giving them transcendence, actually it dupes them. They don't give them a real sense of stillness, a real sense of peace. Rather, they just give them entertainment value. So in spirituality, we say that thought cannot be cut by thought. It can only be cut by silence, and only silence gives you peace. So in my view, the books should not be simply a medium of entertainment. Rather, they should be a medium of self-understanding, a medium in which a person is able to tap into one's own roots. So yes, unfortunately, that is what is happening. That is the major trend which I see, and this trend is actually, should I say, unfortunately, quite dominant among the young generation also. Perhaps because of the stress and the kind of expectations the earlier generation has put on the newer generation. So
Mhm.
yes, it's a complex mechanism, but that's how I see it.
Thank you, Arpit, for your answer. What do you think, Dipavali?
Well, firstly, thanks for giving me the opportunity. And secondly, what I would like to say is that books are friends. Whether they take you away from your daily stress or whether they inspire you, both ways, they can be great friends. Books are what you turn to when you are having actual real life problems. But at the same time, books inspire. They inspire by examples, and this thing is known as bibliotherapy or book therapy. I was surprised to know that there are qualified book therapists. Like, they practice their therapy by asking the clients to read this book, this book, this book. These are appropriate for you, these are not, and so on. It's really a subject, an area in which a conference was also held in Delhi in 2012. I attended it, that's why I know of this.
Mhm.
It was the International Conference of Book Therapy. So books can be therapy, books can be escapism. As Arpit said, it can be both. It depends on what you make of it.
True. I agree with I somewhat agree with Dipavali. I maybe, like, when I was going through a very tough time with when my dad was hospitalized, I started reading books. I had stopped reading books in college, but when my dad was in hospital, for some reason I picked up a book. But once I picked up, I couldn't stop reading continuously. Like, I was reading like mad for 3 months. I was just going through books, and it didn't matter what topic the book was on, or it was mostly fiction and fantasy. But I just kept on reading books, and so but that helped me through a lot of the whole situation. So I agree with Dipavali in this sense, in what she said about therapy, and in a way it is an escapism as well, but I like that part. That's my view on it. What do you think, Vishakha?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree that books are an escape from the, negativity that surrounds us because I wouldn't say I have gone through a really tough time in life, but I do remember as a kid, I used to completely immerse myself in books and just, I used to like finish an entire book in one night. And the
Yeah.
thing about books is it creates this fantasy world around you that you feel you are a part of. And I feel at the end of the day, it helps your personality develop. I always used to read a lot of Harry Potter, so that was something that ended up being a huge part of my life because it just created this world around me that I wanted to be a part of. It, taught me a lot of lessons because I see some of my favorite characters going through their own journeys, which I feel, helps us because we learn from all of these characters that we come across in our books. So I would definitely say that it's one of the best ways to escape the negativity around you. It helps in, personality development despite whatever you choose to read.
So, what kind of books or what kind of genres do you prefer to read in your downtime, or to maybe as a just like a passing time, or just of whatever situation? What kind of books do you prefer to read? I'll start with Arpit.
Yeah. So actually, in my case, if you're asking me,
Mm-hmm.
I have never been a very avid reader in terms of novels and fantasy books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so being a quote unquote spiritual seeker, you can say, in my view, my own life is the biggest book for me. So if I do understand myself, I am able to tap into whatever is around me much more effectively, much more efficiently, and that itself is a book. That itself is something which gives you huge amount of understanding. So there was a time when I had read book. Every person goes through that phase, as you said, that you were going through that phase. I also went through a phase in which I read multiple books, but that doesn't happen nowadays. If you ask me which books I read in those times, which were actually quite effective, I would say the Brothers Karamazov was one of my favorite novels.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was another novel called The Book of Mirdad,
Mm-hmm.
which I really loved. Other than that, there was some Indian novelists also. Earlier, I used to admire Salman Rushdie, so choices also change. But now I feel that his writing is extremely complex and here and there, everywhere. So that is the case. So as people develop, their choices also change. So in terms of where I go to in my downtime, if I tell you honestly, I go to meditation. I go to awareness. So that is my way of dealing with the fluctuations of the energy, not the books. But yes, definitely, as Dipavali ma'am said, books, and the other panelists also said, the books are definitely a great tool to expose your world, to expand your world. Being a single person, being present at a physical location at a time, we cannot expect to live multiple worlds at the same time, but books do give that opportunity to us, and that is what the greatness about books is. But I would like to sort of give a caveat with respect to it also. If books are primarily, I mean, the way you approach books is very important. If books are dealt with or are approached primarily as a means of entertainment, as a means of escape,
Mm-hmm.
then in my view they become less effective. If you approach the books with a sense of empathy to start with, by which I mean to have a second person's perspective, not relate it just personally, but a little bit impersonally, that way the books become extremely powerful tools. So I think the way you approach the books is extremely important. If you approach it in terms of selfishness, for example, there are multiple books who give you ideas about how to become better in terms of personality, how to solve some kind of an issue. There are some self-help books also. They are a classic examples of how you are
Mr.
using.
Arpit, the
Yeah.
question is, what kind of books do you read? Do you prefer reading?
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't read many books. I already gave the answer.
So you
In
prefer
my downtimes,
meditation instead?
yes. If you ask me personally, I don't read books to go when I'm in downtime.
Mm-hmm.
I do meditation. I do like to go into nature. That's what my books are. You know, what I was telling you that what the approach of the book should be.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah. So if you are thinking that books are going to help you, how they are going to help you? I personally don't read many books to help to get help. But if really, in whatever case the books have helped me, they've helped me only when I have read them in an impersonal way, not in a utilitarian way. That's what that the point was.
You can take it as a knowledge and not as a directed knowledge where you want to just
No, I
use
would,
it as a
yeah,
utilitarian book.
Yes, so I would not use them as something which is too much personal, right? Because unless you expand yourself, you can't be a fully functional person. That's what the reality is. If you really want to be fully functional person, you have to approach your world in a less egoistic way. If you are really approaching every book in an egoistic way, in an extremely personal way, you will not be able to understand the real meanings, the meaning between the lines of the books. So that is something which is extremely important. The way you approach the books is something which will define how the books are going to approach you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arpit. Thank you for the answer. What do you think about Dipavali, ma'am? What is your preference? What is your book? What is your genre of preference?
Well, firstly, I agree completely that books should not be read or, at one go to read as, the purpose or what they can give you. You read books, you just read books. I mean, no need to all the time thinking of, how my personality will change or whether I will benefit. That's a very important point raised here. Read books just like, you do so many other things, play games and so on. Given that, my preference is really for classics, old classical novels, whether they're epics, Indian or Greek in translation, or historical or mythological, rewritten today. All this I really appreciate. I read them now. I read them when I was very small, and you can imagine that was a long time ago. Now, also, I like to read about adventure, detection, all these books, even crime thrillers. They also help a lot. Help not in the sense of, what can they teach me in that sense, but removing the stress and also establishing that truth ultimately prevails, which is why Byomkesh Bakshi and Sherlock Holmes, Agatha Christie, all of them are being remade now because they have that perennial truth. Even classics. Rama finds his wife stolen, goes, hunts for whoever has done it, and then kills the person. It's Satyameva Jayate, and truth triumphs, that sort of thing. So every which way you turn, I mean, books are there for so many purposes. I admit I also read cartoon books written for children and all that. Even they, Asterix and all that, don't they, make you laugh as well as teach you various things. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dipavali. What about you, Vishakha? What's your preference? What kind of books do you like to read?
Oh yeah, I definitely love crime and thriller. So Agatha Christie is number one on my list as well. Followed by a lot of John Grisham, and sometimes when I feel like a hopeless romantic, I think I read Daniel Steele and Nicholas Sparks. So basically, crime thriller. And if I really just want to get away from the fiction, then yeah, I always go for the business classic books like The Intelligent Investor, Think and Grow Rich, The Psychology of Money.
So,
three genres.
Thank you, Vishakha. Do you think books with tragic stories help to uplift people as well? Like usually, when people, most of the time, I'm generalizing this as a point. Maybe there are most people who read books to change their mood or try to escape in some way or try to find something interesting in their life. So they're reading books for any other reason. But do you think that even tragic stories or tragedies help to uplift people? Vishakha, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it's a interesting question to explore. I think it depends on the person. If the tragedy is something which is interpreted by a person in a more sporting way, I think even the tragedies can give you so many things. On the other hand, if you are relating it with too much, Again, the way you approach the story, I think it is extremely important as a reader. If you're too much emotional as a person, you have that emotional swing with every line, with every character, you move too much. I think that is something which is going to create a very direct impact on the reader's mind. On the other hand, if the reader is someone who is a more subtle one, who can see things more into the grays rather than the blacks and the whites, I think perhaps even tragedies can give you many beautiful things. So I think it depends on the reader more rather than the novels. There are many classics who have many dark themes,
Mhm.
and they give you a very good understanding of human nature, and through that, a person knows something about himself and the society. So I think that also can be beneficial.
Thank you, Arpit. What about you, Dipavali? Do you think tragic stories uplift people?
Tragic stories,
Yeah.
if they depict some sort of a brave struggle against odds, against whatever that person is facing as a problem, if it depicts the facing of that, maybe it has a tragic end, but it can still inspire. Take Gone with the Wind. It doesn't quite have a happy ending, but Scarlett's struggle and so on, it does, help, especially women to kind of feel that tomorrow is another day.
Mhm.
Again, clearly tragedy or comedy. Take the Book of Dad, as you said. Again, see, it's that entire struggle of the group to find out the truth, and based really on ancient biblical stories and all. See, that sort of thing can give a lot. It can be a greatest inspiration. Take things like Mother India, for example, the film based, and then let's say Diary of Anne Frank. They are not, in that sense, happy reads kind of, but certainly they have been very, very accepted. People, I mean, Diary of Anne Frank goes into so many editions, and in India, which is far from, Germany, but not books like, let us say, Devdas, which, although it's still being made films, I think it is very, very soppy and shouldn't at all be made and remade. That's my take on this.
What about you,
No, I
Vishakha?
think, ma'am, yeah, just one
Sorry.
interjection.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think even Devdas can be seen as, if you see it just as a fact, if you see it in a, should I say, Zenish way, then even Devdas can depict the way the society is functioning. And in that way, the person, if he is able to keep the distance with the story and see it in a much more neutral way, even Devdas stories can actually give you warnings that what kind of society you live in and what kind of dynamics you have to deal with.
Mhm.
You're right, because as you said, it's what the reader makes of it. That's also
Yeah,
there. If you, take to the bottle after looking at Devdas, you're gone. But
yeah,
if
correct.
you take the warning as what should not be the approach, I mean, Devdas could jolly well have taken up social work or something to forget the, girl Paro and all that. That's not the way he took it. And if the reader takes it in that sense, that depends on what you read into the book, as he said.
Like influence in the more usually they'll get influenced in a way, like during Devadas the movie period as well, lot of people got influenced with it in the sense like, oh, I am drinking because I had a heartbreak, so drinking and
Yes.
heartbreak got somehow connected. You are drinking for normal reasons, but somehow it got connected with drinking and heartbreak. What do
There are
you
anyway multiple reasons to drink.
Yes.
What do you think, Vishaka? What's your take on this?
Okay, I have mixed opinion about this, to be honest. I'm not really a personal fan of tragedies because I mean, reading too much of it actually just like rather
Depressing.
than uplifting, yeah, it's more of a depressing thing. So it's something that I would suggest people, like, even if it is something that does help uplift you, it's only to a certain extent. And I feel after that saturation point, it just does the exact opposite, because there's only so much of negativity you can absorb around you. So me personally, I'm not really a huge fan of it. I would say it's good to a very minimal extent and not beyond that.
Mhm. I I agree with you in a certain sense, but uh, usually when I read a sad book or tragedy, like maybe it's a mood or something, but if the book manages to make me give a good cry, somehow I turn happy after crying. I don't know, it just
That's
cheers me up. Like it's like a
yeah. That's
complete flush of all the emotions or all the negativity or anything that I had. Like I just need a good cry, so I read a sad book and then get over it. Then it's a new day.
catharsis kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the next question is this: reading, as you are authors, does reading different books help you overcome roadblocks when you're writing? Please go ahead, Vishaka.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whenever I'm having writer's block, reading another book is the worst thing that I think I can do to get rid of that roadblock or that writer's block, because at the end of the day, it has never helped me out. Writer's block was something that, I used to take very seriously at the starting of, when I was writing my book. But then one of the things that I used to do to, just get rid of that entire block was just to, be myself, take a break from writing for a few days. So like I write poetry. So part of writing poetry is basically connecting with your inner emotions. And as long as you don't do that, you cannot write poems unless, whatever emotion you're trying to express, you feel it, you just let that feeling overcome you, right? So reading other books has never really helped me clear off my writer's block, because then I would just end up comparing that, oh, their poem is so much better than mine. And then that sort of gives you a little bit of an identity crisis as well as a writer. So my best, solution for that roadblock has always been to, just give it a few days break, start thinking about, all the things that I want to express, just come to a very emotional state and then start writing.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Dipavali? Do you have the same opinion as Vishakha?
My personal approach is this, that I do, sort of use, remembered experiences of how this author or that author has tackled a particular issue. When I come to, let us say, problem, I don't go and read that, but I remember. Take, for example, Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice, a very important part is the letter which Darcy writes and so on, to explain why he is like that, Maya
Mhm.
Saki, that. So when I came upon some sort of a tricky area in lost messages, I sort of went back to not a letter but a diary form where you can use the flashback. You don't actually go back and again, but you use the letter form or the diary form. But that's again because I remembered that book. And there are other books also which use this form. It comes to me, oh, in that book it's like this.
Mhm.
But yes, you know, these are all inspirations, all books that you have read, even in your childhood, later on, and so on. They come, and when you're writing, it just flowers, it comes to you. Not in a intentional way, perhaps, but it comes. Yes, that's what I feel.
Okay. What about you, Arpit?
Yeah. So I think the writer's block is, in my case, usually comes in the plot. So for me, it's not something which is related to the character, because in my writing style, all the most of the things are directed through the kind of the character which a particular person has. So in terms of characters, you are able to predict what he is going to do or she is going to do. But in terms of plot, sometimes you get stuck. So my way of getting that resolved is absolutely not to read any other book. There are some reasons to it. Number one, I have a very unique style of writing, so I don't want to
Influence.
I don't usually, yeah, I don't want, I am not able to get many styles. A second thing is, I think when you get ideas from other people, sometimes you lose your own originality. So I don't want to get that kind of a thing. So what I do is, I stop writing, maybe for 1 or 2 days, let the pressure cooker cook something in my head, and that kind of a thing keeps on, sort of swirling around in my head. All the things, the subconscious starts functioning. The second thing which I mostly do is research. So in my case, most of the times, the research has really helped me to break and to get a twist. Sometimes research gives you such a beautiful information. For example, in my own this first debut novel, historical fiction it is. So historical research is something which has helped me a lot for breaking that kind of a writer's block. And in fact, it is sometimes not only helped me to get rid of the block, but also to introduce some more beautiful layers to the story. Because as the new information comes, you are able to spin that new
Better world
information.
building.
Yeah, yeah. So better world building also happens. Other than that, writer's block is something which has not impacted me a lot. I mean, I have written quite fast. I cannot say about the other projects which I'm going to undertake in the future. But in terms of history, I've been quite comfortable.
Thank you, Arpit. Thank you, Dipavali, as well. So let's get out to our next question, which is, what is your all-time favorite read? I will start with Miss Dipavali. Miss Dipavali, what is
Okay.
your all-time favorite read?
You see, Pather Panchali, which was made into a film by Satyajit Ray. Satyajit Ray is not the author. The book is by Bibhuti Bhushan Bandopadhyay. That book, even more beautiful than the film, is an all-time favorite. It deals with the theme of a poor rural boy having various walks of life, moving from village to an urban setting and growing older and so on. It's a family kind of story, how he copes with it. It's a story of coping, and it's beautifully written. Everyone can relate to it. That would be my all-time favorite, not Rabindranath Tagore, but this one. But I would like also to mention this English book, To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird is also beautiful. And it has the same thing, two children, brother and sister, and how they just see the world, and everything is captured there. The struggle of the Negroes, the apartheid, everything is captured there through their eyes. It's got no mythology, no, paraphernalia, but it takes you along. I mean, you just see it's a bestseller everywhere. And just look at the pavements. I mean, it shows the fact that it's making rounds. That is why it is being, displayed on the pavements as well. People are reading it and then maybe selling it off and on. This sort of book is my favorite. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipavali. What about you, Arpit? Arpit.
Okay. So
Yeah,
in my case, it's very difficult to say which one is the favorite, because I don't have any particular favorite as such. But I have liked many books. The To Kill a Mockingbird is one of them, definitely. And you have the Book of Mirdad I really liked. It came in my life when I was undergoing extremely transformational period, and I really liked it. Perhaps because of that fact also, because the context was very sort of relaxing for me, and that book gave me even deeper realizations. So yes, one of them. Other than that, I think there are many stories, many books which have been adapted in movies also. For example, it's a very famous movie. It's called The Schindler's List. So those kinds of stories I really love. As you were talking about the tragic stories, I'm not sure whether you can classify the Schindler's List as a tragic thing, but definitely the context is tragic. So yes, the kind of stories which sort of give you an indication of human resilience in the context of deep cacophony, deep troubles, and the worst of human behavior sometimes elicit the best of human behaviors. It's very, very interesting. So all those stories which give you the deeper aspects of human beings, whether they are spiritual books. I have read many spiritual books also. I have read Osho also. I have read some books of Jiddu Krishnamurti also. All these people have written, these are all different topics, but all these books who explore the deeper aspects of human relationships, whether they are in society or in isolation. I really love to read those books.
Okay. Thank you, Arpit. What about you, Vishaka? What's your? I'm guessing it would be a fantasy for sure. I mean, books
No,
tell you a lot.
this is actually one of my favorite questions out of all of the questions we've had so far, and this is the one that I think I'm going to take the longest time to answer. So I have 5 favorite books. The first 2 books, none of you would have ever been able to guess, but I've been reading books ever since I was like a little kid because I grew up in the U.S. So reading was a huge part of our curriculum. So 2 of my favorite books as a little child. The first one is called Charlotte's Web. I don't know. It's a movie
Yes,
as well. So
yes,
I don't know how many of you have actually watched it, but it's a very cute story of a friendship between a pig and a spider. And at the end of the book, the spider dies, but manages to save the pig's life from slaughter, from turning into meat. And it was just something that I was just like, it touched me. My second favorite book, which I would recommend all of you to read as well, is called Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein, which is a children's poem book, which has all of these weird poems about, so many different imaginative things that I cannot even describe it, but you have to read it to know it. My third favorite book is a very old classic called Pride and Prejudice, which is it's just the most beautiful cliche girly book I think I could be reading. My fourth favorite book would be The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, because I am into finance. I have an MBA in finance and it's also my career. So that's just one book which is like a Bible for everyone who's into finance. And last but not the least, it would be The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown.
nice.
That's my top 5.
Okay, so like I think books, the kind of books that you prefer to read, or kind of books that are your favorite or your go-to, they tell a lot about your inner personalities. Like even the looks, like the cover might not tell you a lot, but books, the kind of books that you read, they may tell you. Like it's just like psychology maybe. Like Dipavali, she likes reading all these interesting books. I never thought, like, as if I see her as a person, I would think, or maybe as her bio says that she's an associate professor, I would think she would read very intellectual books. But then I come to know that she loves crimes and thrillers and romance and fantasy. And then you come to know, yes, it's a deeper human connection. There's something that connects you and relates you as people with different backgrounds, but there are things that you will relate to. So the next question is pretty standard, but I think more it has been answered in the whole talk that we had. Is, are there any books that you would like to recommend as a must read during this pandemic, as a upliftment, or maybe just anything? I mean, what is the book that you would recommend as a must read, that you have to read this book? Let's go with Vishakha first.
So one of the books that I am currently reading is called Sapiens. The complete title is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, which is just so elaborate in history and, the entire science behind about how humans have evolved. And it's just so, it's just so much of information to absorb in, which I think now is the perfect time to just sit and study that book, because it's just so like, it's just about, yeah, about how humans have just evolved through time, and how, you know, we are surviving in the environment that we are in. So that would be my first book to recommend. And the second book is actually poetry by one of my favorite poets called Bo Taplin. It's just this one book which has so much about love and philosophy and heartbreak that, you know, just reading it just uplifts your mood. So I would recommend these two.
What about you, Dipavali?
Well, firstly, Anand Mott, in which the song Vande Mataram appears. You see, written by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. You see, it begins with a description of a big famine in late 18th century. And it begins like that. I see that the village has a lot of houses, but where are the people? Exactly the lockdown scene that we have here. And India has had very many epidemics and so on later on also. Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyay, apart from Devdas, he's written a book called Pandit Mashai, which has been made into this film by film called Khushbu, starring Jitendra and Hema Malini and so on. It treats the cholera epidemic and how people reacted to it. So these are all classics, and they're all available in translation form and so on. Then again, Ashwini Shankit, which has been made into a film by Satyajit Ray, which is again about the Bengal famine of 1942 and so on. So these are the ways. And talking of English novels, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck is a very important treatment of this problem with the Great Depressions of the 1930s in Oklahoma, USA. So you see, it rings a bell everywhere. I mean, how those people coped with their devastating economic problems. Incidentally, I mentioned that not only am I a retired professor, etc., I'm also a retired professor of economics. So, you know, these things, financial problem, how they impact the ordinary man. I mean, look at the people now. I mean, it's not only the people who are just dying and so on. What about those people who are left, who have to build from scratch and so on? What about those migrant labor issues and all? So it is certainly, we are, posed at a very interesting phase of looking at not only life, but literature. I mean, God only knows how literature will take off from here, because you've got to write about them. Someone must write about these people. They are the heroes and heroines, unsung, neglected, and so on. I'm sure that in the next few years, we will see a lot of pandemic literature in this sense. And lastly, may I just add, not on this level, not on this kind of nuance at all, but read my book, which is forthcoming. It is, this Unheard Voices from Ancient Times. It's a couple who cannot go to Goa because of the pandemic. And so how do they, sort of in this position, sitting at home, so they tell each other stories, mythological stories, and see how many aspects, many voices have been unheard in Jambudweep, so to speak. They have. So we look at them. We can't go out. We can't, go to our malls or wherever, or to Goa and so on. But we can try to hear these unheard voices in our families, in our mythology, all around us. Look at the maids, look at the drivers, and so on. So there's a lot to be done. Again, what you read is the reader's prerogative. What you write is also the writer's, what he makes of life around you. That's what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dipavali. What about Arpit? What's your take? What's your recommendation?
Yeah, so I think my recommendation will be informed by the present situation. The present situation is extremely messy. So, in my view, the present situation has it's a sort of a simplistic thing. I mean, it's not very mathematical and very logical. I cannot explain it, but it's generally agreed that humanity as a whole has been cut off from nature. We have become more and more plastic and less organic. So I think it's the karmic effect of those things which has created these kinds of situations. So I would like humanity to go deeper to nature, connected to it. So in that respect, I would like to give them a dose. So if you ask me, I'm able to remember just one book which I feel is not very heavy. At the same time, it is very deep. Sometimes very deep things are very simple. So I would like to recommend a book by the name of Krishnamurti's Notebook. It's a beautiful book which has been written, which was actually a compilation of one of the greatest philosophers and self-realized man. I really admire the person. Perhaps you can check him out. His name was Jiddu Krishnamurti, J. Krishnamurti. His videos are available on YouTube. It was his personal diary, which he used to write his observations. So it's the compilation of the observations of the nature and the observation precisely of Jiddu Krishnamurti, and one should understand that he is a self-realized person. So it's a compilation of the observations of a self-realized person when he goes into nature. So I think those kinds of realizations are something which are going to create perhaps a space within the person who is more therapeutic, who is more organic, and perhaps will help sort of calm down the overstimulated immune systems which we are having nowadays.
Thank you, Arpit. So as an end note, I would like to ask all of you, what do books represent for you? Let's start with Dipavali.
As I said, they are my friends. This is the best representation. See it. My friends throughout life, and I'm 66, so it's been a long association. That's what books represent to me.
Thank you, Dipavali. So short and sweet. What about you, Vishakha? What do books represent for you?
I would absolutely agree with Dipavali ma'am when she said that they are your best friends, and I think that's true. Books are even my best friend. No matter what the situation is, books are always there around you to make you feel better, to give you that company that sometimes you cannot find in human beings. So yeah, books are like companions. They're like the first way that that you learn something new from. So
Thank you, Vishakha. What about you, Arpit? You rarely read, but still, what do books represent for you?
Yeah, I do read. I didn't say I don't read, but I don't read many fiction books, though I write fiction. In my view, books are dreams. Just as you see dreams in the night, just as you see dreams in the day, you may have a certain book which is one kind of a dream, another kind of a book which is another kind of a dream, emotional dream, tragic dream, uplifting dream, and the more a dream is predisposed to take you out of the dream, the better the dream is. That's how I see it. The book which takes you towards sanity, towards reality, which is sanity, by the way, which has beauty, which has love, which has oneness, which has that non-duality. That book is something which is a great book. It can be present in any outer cover. It can be emotional or it can be tragic, whatever it is. If the essence of that is to take you out of this mess which we are seeing today inside our minds and outside of our minds, then that's a great book. So in my view, book is a dream, and that should be looked like that.
Thank you, Arpit. Thank you, Dipavali. Thank you, Vishakha. Thank you for joining for today's panel discussion.